Y'all, welcome back to Kentucky Fried Wargaming, where two guys who aren't qualified to talk about anything decide to talk about a game with hard math and chance. I'm Joe.
And I'm John.
And on this episode, we're shamelessly talking about the game we have recently found and are absolutely special interesting over. And,
Yep.
Judging by...
Hyperfixation, go
It is
brr.
hyperfixation, boo. And judging by community sentiment and the comments, y'all are too. So we're circling back. To hell with it. We thought we'd wait a little longer, maybe do something that's more topical, maybe cover some codexes or something. But no, we're just going to circle right back. Because we recently talked about how we were, I was going to try to pitch Conquest to John. And maybe I could gently get him involved in the game. Maybe convince him to, just check out that little league. Well, it all worked. And now, we're sinking fast. And
What's up?
we just thought we'd have a follow-up this episode. That, if the last one was, hey, here's this thing I'm interested in, then maybe we should do an episode of, we've now both done this thing, we joined the league, we've done a bunch of hobbying. What's our first impressions? What's it been like trying to get to grips with this?
And where are we going?
Because that's the question. But first, we got to talk about hobby time and games played. Played music. All right, John, what have you been up to? I ask, knowing exactly what you've been up to.
So I have painted a ton of Cruel Boys and a ton of Wadroon. So I have built and painted a unit of Hunters for Wadroon. I have built and painted a unit of Raptor Riders for Wadroon. I've built and painted a Predator and a Scion of Conquest, all for Wadroon, and it is done. It is ready. I am going to be heading into Blooded and 2 units of Braves next.
Woo!
And then on the Cruel Boys side, I have painted a Breaker Boss, I have painted a Snatcha, like a Sludge Raker, and I have built the Monster Killers, and I have acquired the rest of the army. So now it becomes, how much Cruel Boys can I get done before February? But nothing on the 40k front. Except for I finished The End of the Death Part 2, which is great. Phenomenal book. I won't spoil anything, but it's been a great time. And games-wise, we played some AOS, had a fun time, and then also played Conquest, which we're going to talk about in this episode. But overall, it's been much hobby and much miniature stuff going on. No time for video game, only time for painting.
Yeah, we've just the past few nights been like, hey, let's play some Mech Warrior after just these incredible hobby streaks.
Yes.
I don't know, it's nice for it to not feel forced and to be super interested in multiple fronts. That's an amazing problem to have as far as problems go. Who doesn't love that? On my end, as John said, we played some AOS. We recently had a little get-together for our winter vibe, so I played a bunch of Lumineth for the first time. That went interestingly.
He means well. It went well.
I won all of the games, all of them.
Went well.
I have struggles with winning. It's a whole thing. We might do an episode on it one day. It's gonna be rough. But it, it was very rewarding. I'll put it that way. It's a stressful force to get your head around. But once you do, you could take units that are kind of lackluster in a vast majority of cases. And if you're careful and you're tricky and you have a plan, you could kind of use these various pieces to weave together new answers to opponents. And it was super fun. Every game was a blast. Everybody had a wonderful time, which don't get me wrong, armies are cool, hobbying's cool, but the thing that matters to me the most is that these are get-togethers with our gaming group. And everybody having as much fun as they did. Just raucous laughter the entire time is an absolute delight. And I can't complain about that at all. And afterwards, I also did some hobbying to finish up the Lumineth, as well as obviously a lot of hobbying beforehand to prep them. That army is almost entirely painted now, which is awesome. I can't wait to circle back. And then I started prepping for the little get-together that we were hobbying for the league. So it has been Conquest.
Conquest.
Yeah, last week I built primed, zenithalled, and painted a blooded hero. So he is done, and I think I painted him to a pretty nice quality, did a bunch of highlights and stuff. Impressed some people at the league, so I guess I'm doing something right. And he looks really nice. I also based him as well as the Ogre that I had already painted before, so now they're all based up, and their movement trays are based, and they're looking good. They were ready to play game one. And then dove into, just like immediately, because I painted up the blooded so quickly, the Huskarls that I was building the last time we sort of did a hobby progress update. Just to be honest, they were a little bit of a pain to build, but painting-wise, they are longer than the Ogre, but I'm still having a good time with them. I'm just trying to approach them in this new way that I'm doing. It's not slap choppy, but it's sort of like I use contrast, gets base coat, and then I just highlight up various layers from the contrast. They're coming along nicely. They are almost done. Like I'm looking at them over there across the room, and for this unit that is, if I'm going to be honest, the hardest unit I'm going to paint for this army, more than likely. They have the most gewgaws and baubles, which is kind of rare for Conquest models, it seems. And if that's the hardest unit, and I got them done in just like a couple of hobby sessions, I mean like 4 days worth of hobby sessions, if I was able to do them back to back to back, but deer season has made that hard, they'd be done by now. And it's a good feeling. I just got to highlight their cloaks really quickly and then wash them. And ba-boom! Huskarl's done. And then I don't know what I'm going to paint next. I might paint trolls. Might paint some bow chosen. Who knows? But just sort of looking forward to trying to catch up on my painting. The league only requires we paint like 250 points of model per month. And that's like one base regiment and a hero. So like that's the requirement for the extra point. But I just maybe want to try to do them all. Like if I can catch up at the 1,000 point mark, it will be much easier going forward for me.
Yeah, I think I'm already there enough for my points for the next month, but I'm definitely trying to push past it. I'm trying to get everything painted.
Yeah. The Huskarl alone will give me like 180 points or something, and then I add a Cunnin Gear, which is like a single foot hero, and he's like 140. So those two combined would already throw me over. But I think I'm just gonna have time to do another unit, especially with the holiday coming up for Thanksgiving. And if I can, and I got the want, why not? Why not? And there's quite a bit of want and interest, because boy howdy, did we have just a hell of a time.
That's an understatement.
And I think it's worth talking about. Play the music. Y'all, Conquest.
Roll Supremacy.
I don't have a D6.
Oh, that's fine.
I
win.
Oh no. Yeah, so I was gonna lightly convince John to like maybe just look into Conquest a little bit. I critical succeeded. John looked into it and then painted a ton of it, and now we're in the league. And we had our first league day just this past weekend. We are recording this just a few days afterward. And I guess just like minor setup. For us to talk about how we enjoyed Conquest, I think it kind of helps if we set the scene a little bit of like the environment we played in. Because I don't want to like misconstrue people that we're out here like playing full scale point games, that like tournament prep stuff, and like that we're to grips with it that quickly, because we ain't.
For sure.
Definitely not. So I just want to like set it appropriately so we're not misleading anyone. So this was our first game day of the league that we joined. It's an escalation league that is based out of there's like, it originally started in Dayton, Ohio, I think, is like the main group. And then they started recently, like this is their first time, a little satellite group in Cincinnati. They wanted to try to run a league. And I think we're at 10 people in the league who signed up, most of which are entirely new to the game, like brand new players, vast majority. And it's 500 points for the first outing, and that's pretty much it. You're going to try to get at as many games as you can and just get to grips with things as we increase by 500 point increments over, 4-ish months or so. So we got together. I think there were about 8 people at the shop. A few people couldn't make it because of life happening. And,
Like it do.
stuff happens. I get it. And it was a really good time. A lot of like shooting the shit, waiting around, having a good time. Because you really, like, when you go to a place like this and you're playing randoms who you don't know, like, you gotta feel out the room a little bit. Because you don't know exactly what you're getting into. Because let's be honest, like, all gaming groups do not have the same vibe.
No.
Sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh, this is not a place for me. And I will admit, like, I guess that's always what I'm kind of bracing for. But that was not my experience. Everybody, pretty chill. Really nice.
Yeah, the vibes were immaculate, which we'll get into, like, later. But, like, generally, like, some of the best fun I've had with strangers in, like, a miniature setting, especially for a new game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just, like new boot goofing with a game.
Ooh, goofing.
It was a good time. I played Wadroon, which, if you don't know, are orcs on dinosaurs that play like elves. Which is great.
What a description.
Right? Like, I love the aesthetics of orcs. I love the aesthetics of dinosaurs. But I also like playing tricksy factions because I'm me. And so I'm having a great time. Like, the mechanics can be a little bit, like, much at first, but, like, the group we had made it really easy to kind of, like, slowly roll into it. Where, like, mistakes were made in games.
For sure.
And people would just be like, hey, I think it actually works like this. And be like, oh, shit, let's read the rulebook. Read the rulebook and be like, oh, cool. There was no arguments. There was no, like, well, actually, I read this period, and so like this. It was like, no, like, it was on point. I don't think I ever saw or heard, like, any major disagreements or frustrations or anything. It was just people having a good time, which was great. And I got 2 games in. I probably could have gotten another game in, but the vibes were so good, I ended up chatting a bunch instead of just playing games.
Same.
But, like, that's fine. I plan on going to the next one, 1,000 points. Gonna make it happen. Want to play? I would be playing right now if I could, but it's holiday week, and there's a bunch of stuff that's got to happen. So,
I mean, I look forward to Thanksgiving. It's a wonderful holiday. It's just there's so much prep that goes into it. But after this, John, we're playing Conquest.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I played Nords, which are like the big Viking dudes. My list is pretty straightforward, and it got bloated up the night before. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, I ran like a big old muscled like melee dude from a hero called Blooded. He was in a unit of trolls, which are trolls, and they were backed up by Ogre, which are Ogre. It's very straightforward. I don't have to justify anything like John does for his orcs because they're so weird. Like, it is what it is on the 10. And I got 2 games in. First against one of the shop owners, Eric, who I have played like many times, and it's always fun. And neither of us knowing the system was very interesting. We were able to kind of like help each other look up rules and stuff and see what sort of Intuit knowledge we can glean from our other game experience to like use here in positioning and stuff. And neither of us really knew our armies. So like, that's a fun time. No one can really Uber build when you don't know shit about what's Uber building. And we had a heck of a game. I lost my first game, but it was quite close. And then second game, I fought John's Wadroon. Won that one. Ayy.
I tried to steal his fish. He yelled at me that I wasn't allowed inside of his Red Lobster. It was a whole thing.
We said free crab tomorrow. You showed up today. It was bad. We had to escort you out.
I want unlimited shrimp salad and breadsticks. You told me that was the wrong restaurant and kicked me out.
It's true. Sorry. Go back to the waste with you. And similarly, like, I played 2 games. I could have done a third, but like, I did not want to just be about business. Like, if everybody's having a good time chatting, asking questions, sharing list ideas, hobby ideas, why dampen that just to push for like a third game in a league when like you're going to get 2 more games in the next month anyway. And I had a hell of a time, despite being exhausted, because it's deer season. Like, I was in a deer blind at 6:30 in the morning, waiting for sun to rise so I could read the rule book for the first time.
I woke up to a picture from Joe in a deer blind with the Conquest rulebook in the frame. And it says, "Is this what country gaming is?" I'm like, "You miserable piece of shit."
It's true. It's true. I didn't see hide nor hair of a deer that day, but I did learn my Conquest rules decently. So that's a benefit, right? That works. And despite being absolutely pooped, God, so much fun. And like this is I think where I want to start kind of get into like how it went for each of us and how we sort of felt about it. Like obviously vibes are good, we're both really feeling our armies, but like what are you liking or what are you feeling now that you've played a couple of games and you're sort of set up to do more? Also, you've hobbied on a number of their miniatures, you've built a number of their miniatures. Like what are you thinking?
So like first off, I'm a hit with hobby, right? Where like there's some challenges still there, or like I think some of the models are difficult to put together. The instructions aren't very clear, nor are they very like consistent, which I think is an issue. But if you're a more veteran player, like putting them together really isn't all that hard. And the benefit is that unlike GW kits where they're all single posed, a lot of these models are really like customizable, which is very, very good. And like their resin is surprisingly great. Like I have a resin character, Scion of Conquest. Way better than GW resin. Huge fan, right? That part, great. Painting them, larger scale, means that it is way more fun to paint. There's a lot less finicky details on the models because what's impressive about them is their size and their like interesting design, not necessarily the 20 billion skulls and gewgaws on them. Which is really, really good. They take to paint really well, specifically contrast paint. I think a lot of people had like contrast style painting done on their models for the event, and it all looked pretty good.
It did. Like, shout out to Drew, who like did an entire army in like a week almost of Old Dominion, and that was largely contrast. I think that was like 90% contrast. And the big minis with the big recesses, the big detailed, the big embossings, like it just, the contrast,
it works
well there.
It works really well. And having them on these bases, like these square bases that the round bases go into, makes it a lot easier to like move them around and store them and like magnetize them. And also because you don't like, if you wanted to, you could take out some of the models from the units. You could like make more creative hobby stuff with it.
You could make each plate a little diorama if you wanted to. Like,
yeah, it's very, very cool. Like I really enjoy that aspect for hobby for me. But game wise is where I was the most impressed. Like playing the game felt very back and forth. It felt very engaging of like, I can make a mistake and then try to recover. I can learn from my mistake and not just get rolled over. Like there was a lot of back and forth. They're like, it isn't just alpha strike my opponent or like shoot them to death or like punch them really hard or have an invincible army. Like mobility matters. The ability to like maneuver correctly matters. There's a lot of skill involved with the game in how you move, how you deploy, where you're going to rotate, where you're going to charge, how much like are you going to risk on letting your opponent activate before you, like setting up your cards for how you're going to activate and in the process in which you're going to activate. Like, there's so many layers and depths to the game that I can't imagine it getting boring. And that's before we get into the factions themselves, where, like, I've read through a whole bunch of the factions, but, like, specifically with Wadroon, every unit can take a different chant, and that drastically change how you play the faction. So you can take the same models and build, like, 4 or 5 different lists. Without changing any of the models in the list, just changing what
upgrades and like secondary choices you do. Yeah.
Yep. And that doesn't even get into like the upgrades on the actual characters, which again change how the game goes. So it's like a game that is built to be played as a game. Like, the models are beautiful and they're worth collecting and they're great, but the idea is, from a design standpoint that I'm seeing, is that you collect the models to then play with them as much as you possibly can. And I think that's great for a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both those things really kind of push me into wanting to play the game. But like, what really, really got me the most was the community, right? Like, oftentimes the communities for these games are like individual faction discords, or like individual like YouTube channels, or individual Reddit posts. Not, hey, we're the creators of the game, we're running a Discord where you can interact with like the game designers, and we're going to actively promote people that are like in the community, and we're also all kind of signed on to help each other like learn this game and have a great time. Like, the vibes online, also immaculate. The vibes in person were immaculate. I don't think I've met a bad person at all. Like, I've just been having a good time with it. Like, unabashedly enjoying myself in this game. And it really kind of drives me to just play the game more.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I mean, even with customer service, right? Like, I ordered a bunch of stuff for their holiday sale, and they messed up my order. I got sent the wrong 2-person starter kit, which, like, that's going to happen, right? I've worked in warehouses before. I know what happens. I emailed them. They got back to me almost immediately with a, hey, our bad. We're going to send you one that we're missing. Sorry, it's going to take a couple of more days to get there. And just the other ones, just don't worry about it. Just, that was our mess up. Just take it as an apology. Like, there was no question. It was just rad. On top of that, like,
Golf
the
claps.
fact that they're...
Golf claps.
Yeah. And they're coming from Greece. And they got here, even with the mess up, within like 2 weeks.
And during the holidays. And like peak season.
Yes. Like, I cannot begin to put into words how much they care that you get your order and you get it on time. Like, there are still things from GW I've wanted to buy for 8 months and I can't. Like, I'm so happy I was able to buy models for this game.
I love it. I'm sad that's the bar, but I love it.
Yeah, like, I mean, sure, they have issues because everyone has logistics issues right now. Some distributors are having some issues, but at the end of the day, like, you can get stuff from their website. And, like, their sales, like, their Christmas specials, are actual Christmas specials. Like, they're not discounting the models, but they're instead just giving you more stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're putting it as if new people are going to get it. Like, I effectively bought 2 whole armies and for 2 whole games that me and my roommate split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about it?
It's a hell of a way in. It is. Like, and I think it helps with the onboarding. It does. Yeah.
And, you know, free rules. Free rules help. We talk about that a lot here. Free rules, great.
And an app that's good.
Yep.
App that's good.
App's really easy to use. There's only one complaint, and that's it doesn't autosave.
That's true. You have to hit the save button.
But, like, oh no, that's my complaint. Mm-hmm.
It works. Yes, I felt similar. For me, I'm grabbed mechanically. For me, what felt nice was how much, like, movement mattered. Sort of a player's deployment skill in some games matters less, right? Like, we have all played tabletop war games where, like, no matter how well you deployed, you were doomed. You were alpha struck. You were in cover, you were behind buildings, you were out of line of sight, it didn't matter. You were dead turn 1 anyway. You know, everything had 180-inch ranges, it ignored line of sight, it ignored negatives to kill you. Like, you know, in those moments, you really do feel like, well, damn, like, my positioning here didn't matter at all. Here, it is not the case. My game against John, largely I won it because my Uger, like, yeah, the Uger hit hard, but the Uger made it into John's flank twice. Not once, but twice. Boy, howdy. Like, it was kind of hard to pull off, but because I did, My reward was making John's leadership terrible. Like he had to reroll all of his successful leadership checks, and that means more damage.
And the beautiful thing about that is that I saw it coming. Like it wasn't a gotcha. I could see where it was going to happen to me, and I had an opportunity to try to position and move around it. And I did end up making some choices to try to do that, but it just wasn't enough because of the situation on the table. But like the fact that it was predictable and you could see it feels more healthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, oh, I just like counter spells are cool, but when like someone is running all counter spells list.
Yeah, it's kind of poopy. You know, it's one thing for a person to go, haha, on a 1-up, I get to interrupt your movement and teleport a unit within 2 inches of your battle line, good sir. I'm very smart. And like, how are you supposed to know that's coming? How are you supposed to know? But here, you know, you can appreciate your opponent's tactics. They make good moves. You see the good moves. GG. And I like that. And that also plays into the command stack. Because the Conquest, it isn't, I take my whole turn, John takes his whole turn. It is, we both secretly build activation stacks. Each one of our units is on a little card that we put upside down, face down, that neither of us gets to look at each other's stack. We roll. Person who wins a roll-off gets to reveal the top card of their stack. That card activates, does all of its stuff. It goes to the other person. You reveal your top card. Does all of its stuff. You back and forth until you're out of cards. And what that means is you have to sort of play mind games. You have to predict what your opponent's going to do. You have to pick your activation order. You have to, hedge your bets and risk what you're going to let not activate for a minute and what you're going to activate early on. And that's sometimes a hard decision. And I like it. I like being put in those positions. And I really enjoy a game where like macro strategy matters that much rather than just like micro memorization, if that makes sense. And like, obviously I was tired from deer hunting, but also Friday night they released like a new, I don't know what they call them, rules sheet for this werewolf hero, which is so cool. I wish I could order the werewolf hero. I want the werewolf. I want to order werewolves and a werewolf hero. And that blew up my list. Like my list became illegal Friday night. We were going to play Saturday morning, which is inconvenient. And like, that's kind of scary. And it was one of those moments of, oh crap, how am I going to play? Like my list is illegal. Like all the upgrades I gave to my blooded that gave him the upgrade to be like a werewolf and run around with Uger, no longer legal. Oh no, what do I do? Because the app updated immediately and it was easy to use, I could work my way through it. Sitting there within about 20 minutes, come up with another list option. Play around with some points, boop, 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 save, done. And that's cool. And it means that they're putting out some regular updates, which I'm quite a fan of. And to second John's thing, vibes are immaculate. Like, I just have no complaints. Everybody was chill. We're all learning. Trying to help each other remember rules, even if that means, like, reminding you of something that could hurt me. Like,
it's very friendly.
It's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And I think that vibe, and again, this could just be, like, our 10-man group for this area, and maybe just our online interactions are very quarantined and we're lucky. But I'm okay with that. Still feeling good to me.
Yeah, like, oh no, I'm having a great time.
Don't pitch me. Let me dream. Yeah, and I'm hoping that vibe keeps up the whole league, and it just sort of fosters everyone learning as we grow up to like 1,000 points, and then 1,500, and eventually 2K.
And I get a T-Rex. I want a T-Rex so bad.
Werewolf. I want a big Viking werewolf guy.
My T-Rex needs to fight your werewolves.
I think the T-Rex...
Which is a sentence I have wanted to say since I was 12.
I love it. I think your T-Rex probably wins that fight. Ice Giant. And then I throw my Ice Giant at your T-Rex, and we just sit back and play the little, like, clip of let them fight. And then, monster action figure noises ensue.
Yeah, we make just like King Kong movie sounds.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Welcome to Skull Island. Get dunked. Yeah, I'm really excited going forward. And I think that's kind of where we want to wrap up, is like we've had this first impression. Sort of, we set the scene for where we were, how it went for us for our first actual get-together, how we felt about it, what we liked, some of the stuff we didn't like with like some modeling difficulties. Now, to the future. Because boy howdy, I think there's some future in it.
Yeah, I think...
First off, the league, we're running with it. Like, we're going to keep doing the league.
Yeah, like leagues, like that's a foregone conclusion. We are going to play this. We are going to finish it. It's going to be a great time.
We're in it all the way to 2K. Like,
we might even be roping other people in. Like that's where we're at with this. Like we've got, me and Joe originally got into it, was just like, oh yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to play it. It'll be fine. And our hubris that our local friend group that plays these games, just going to let us do that. Whereas like some of them have just been like, oh yeah, I bought a box for the holiday deal. The other one's like, I bought a box for the holiday deal. Third one's like, I'm interested in 3 of the factions. And a fourth one going, hey, what's up? I read the rule book. Like, and I'm like, you ain't read a rule book for Age of Sigmar in your life. You just read a goddamn rule book.
Right? Like, where the hell do you come from? I don't understand. What bat signal we turned on? We expressly told ourselves we were going to keep this quiet, okay? We're not pitching it to anybody. We're not trying to tell anybody what they should buy. Not coming to anyone, Protestantizing for the game, because we went, oh, it's probably a little too crunchy. I don't know if anyone's going to like it. We were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently so wrong.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're going to be playing a lot more, that's for sure. Also, in the future, like, I don't know, one of the things that I think is really cool is they have this program called the Vanguard program, which, like,
yeah,
I had heard the term, but I didn't know what it was before this.
Yeah, like I heard about it originally, and I was like, oh, so it's like every like pseudo ambassador program for like every game where they're like, hey, do free labor for us, and we will like give you like head pats and like a thank you thing. Like you get a little paper certificate and maybe a pizza party if you're lucky. It's only Little Caesars. But no, like the actual Vanguard program has like a heavy amount of support behind it from Parabellum, and has like clear guidelines and for like what the intent is, and there's like application processes and a bunch of other stuff like actually matters. It's more than just like, hey, get 6 people to play the game. Like it's like an actual program to help create and foster good community in the game, both online and in person.
Mm-hmm. And that, like, if you get into it and you do quite a bit of it, there's even some, like, monetary rewards that you can use as prize support for your little, like, community building sessions and stuff.
Yep.
That's
and
cool.
there's special stuff that gets sent to them, not like, for those of you who play Magic, like, there used to be these judge promo things where you would get, like, judge cards or, like, judge stuff. There's these minis they give out, like, they gave out to ambassadors recently, or Vanguards recently, that were like concept art minis for the new factions coming that you should give out at your events and stuff, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like conceptually, I love that. That's great.
Here's the thing. Give it away. I love that. And it isn't just run tournaments, because really that's what I thought it was. Like when they mentioned like, oh yeah, we build community, my brain was just like, okay, yeah, they want you to run competitive tournaments. Not the case. Not at all. It's much more broad. Hobby days, paint days, play days. Like a tournament is also fine. But they seem to have a more open-minded approach for how to grow a community rather than just be competitive, run event.
And I think that
might speak to the company.
And it goes to their design for narrative as well, and factions. Like, all the new factions get voted for by the community, which I think is great. Like, that is phenomenal. That they're like, these are the things we're thinking about doing. Pick which ones you guys like the most. But then also, like, they have voting for where the story goes through something called the Living World, which we will absolutely have a whole episode on. Just saying. Like, foreshadowing there. it's just good. Like it is a level of engagement with it that is fun and like it's a good time. It's not like yelling in the 40K lore Reddit of just like could Sanguinius clamp Saint Celestine's cheeks? I bet she could. I bet he could. I bet he absolutely could. Like no, it's like oh like let's talk about the nature of violence through the guise of orc dinosaurs. What?
And factionalism through two Vikings of opposing religious sects.
Yeah, like
And
wild.
You choose how this is gonna end. You could choose. Like that's one of the story pitches I was recently reading. Is like it was after a battle in the Nord lands, and there's like a jarl with these two like raiders on their knees, bound like prisoners, explaining like, oh well, shitheads, like this battlefield didn't have to exist, and it was essentially friendly fire in a civil war. You turned two halves of my troops against each other to fight over religious differences because you're being played against each other by two different sects of priests. Oh no. What's that in the distance? Is that a giant monster I hear coming to eat the dead and you? Huh. I'm going to leave you one knife and we're all going home. Decide if you cut your own bonds or the other person's or slit his throat. I doubt I'll see you again. And he leaves. And then the community gets to choose what happens. Like, okay, who gets the knife? Is it the guy of religious faction A or B? Okay. Does he kill the other person? Does he try to save them? Or does like the other one jump him? Your choice. And okay, you've chosen that they're gonna help each other. Okay, here's another short story a little later where they're doing it. Obviously, they've been injured. Do they treat one another? Do they let the other die? Do they rest? Do they not? Like, you are choosing how this little tale plays out. And by your choices, maybe affecting the overarching tale.
It's like a collective choose your own adventure story.
It is. I was just gonna say it was like the those Goosebumps novels where you choose your own tales and you put in like a bajillion bookmarks for like piss I died again. Like
yeah, it's great.
You don't die in this
I'm all
one.
about it.
The characters you're reading about might die, but you'll be fine. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. And it makes me more interested in the lore, to be honest. Which is kind of impressive because I already like the lore. Like, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I'm gonna be real honest. I'm gonna have a moment of open vulnerability. I'm a lore whore. I am. I'm a slut for lore. I do terrible, terrible things for a cool novel. I would. So, like, when you show me a cool game, I'm always in it for the lore. I'm gonna memorize it. I can't help it. It's what my brain do. It just catalogs it. It pushes out all the useful information. It fills it with this. And this game did that, but there's a different tinge of flavor there that is sort of like just sticking in my craw in interesting ways. And while I'm like at work, I'll just sort of think on various little interactions, ask myself some questions, and I want to know more. And to that end, like, I think from reading YouTube comments, there are a lot of people out there who also want to know more. And they want to know about like the fluff and even some of the mechanics for these games. Because I guess it doesn't look like there's a lot of content made around it.
There's not a lot of Conquest content out there.
Like, there's some battle reports, not a lot, some. Doug from 2 Plus Tough does incredible lore videos, highly recommend them. But there's not a lot beyond that I'm finding. And I'm interested enough that in the future, like, I'm going to just go ahead and, like, spill the beans. We're going to be talking about the fluff. Like, we're going to talk about the fluff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're going to stop there either. I think that we're going to talk about the fluff. We're going to talk about some of the mechanics, but like hard caveat there. We are not going to come at that from the concept of experts because we are new to this. If anything, we're probably just going to be sharing with you our journey of like understanding and learning this game and sort of like where we're going through with it. Because you might be experiencing similar if you're getting into the game, right? Like, we're not going to pretend like we're like top tier tournament players here. We're not. Like, we're not. We're like, hey, what happens when I bring like 6 Braves in a unit with like a chieftain. Like, neat. Other people would be like, whatever, it does this. Like, I don't know. Like, this is new to me. Like, we're going to talk about what's fun, what's cool, why do we engage with it?
Mm-hmm. What sort of stuff was sticking points for us, and how did we get around it? Like, from a perspective of what we got, rather than like a perspective of I'm an expert, I am almost omnipotent. Here is the end all be all. Because like that's really the thing I want to do with this is like I don't want to try to come at this from an angle that isn't true and like that we know a lot about this because we really don't. We're really far more passionate than we are educated, and that's just generally true. But it's especially true here. So the stuff we make is just going to be the stuff we're interested in. So I think in the near future you could probably see us doing sort of like an overarching lore of Conquest video, just talking about the highest viewpoint. What is the world and some of the movers and shakers in it. Maybe after that, put out some fluff about the Nords, about the Wadroon, about the Old Dominion, because it's the stuff that we think is really cool. And we just see where it takes us. But like, we're having a really good time, and I think it would be a shame to waste this passion just to do some more topical videos, y'all.
Yeah, I think, not to get too deep on the podcast, but I think this show for us is best whenever we are just doing the thing that feels good for us. Mm-hmm. We're not like huge in the content creation scene. And I think that we just care more about being genuine and talking about our experiences than we do about actually like getting a ton of views or subscribers or money or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, we this costs us money to do. We make negative money.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is fine because we talk about the things we're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all out there, please. We are new to Conquest, and there are so many perspectives we do not have. Very much so. You all have been delightful when like coming to the videos and putting comments for like requests and wanting more of this. So hey y'all, we're doing more of it. This is my ask though, if you wouldn't mind, in the comments of this video or, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to send it. For the people who are really interested in Conquest and want more, and you want sort of particular stuff, please send it over. We don't know what we don't know, but if you sort of prompt us with some topics that you want to hear talked about, much like the scale video, we can. And I would love to take this opportunity to do that if y'all have particular things you want us to take a look at that we might not even know exist yet. And then we can circle back on it and have a good time together. And I think that's really fun for all of us.
Yeah, we're jazzed about Conquest. We want to talk about it more. Like, stay subscribed, stay liking, yada, 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 but really just reach out about the stuff you want to hear about, and we will talk about it. Like, it'll be a great time. And if you're new, if you are absolutely jiving with Conquest like we are, look for their event calendar, look for a local Vanguard. If you're in Kentucky, there's one in Louisville, there's some stuff in Cincinnati. I don't think there's anything in Lexington yet. I don't know about Southern Kentucky. But, like, Columbus has a huge scene up in Columbus. There's some bunch of stuff in Cleveland. Like, look for it. It's probably there. And if not, maybe try to start it. Like, I think this game can get way more people into it. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, there's something there. And maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode. But there's some combination of not needing, like, a ton of very particular terrain, plus, like, more affordable miniatures, and the less minis overall, that just makes it more approachable from a logistics side.
Huge tabletop simulator scene, so like,
yeah,
that too.
That's true. You can play online, and I love that. More people, the better. We're going to be over here hobbying away on Conquest because we got a 1,000-point date on the 9th. For now, though, that's been all of our opinions, bona fide and Kentucky Fried. We'll see y'all in the next video.